Hi, I'm Ingrid and welcome back to my YouTube channel! So if you do a little research, you'll find that the richest people in the world are either great entrepreneurs or great investors. As I've done more research about investing, I've started to respect it as its own game that might be just as interesting or even sometimes a little more interesting than creating a business yourself. To name a few people who started funds really early in their life, Warren Buffett started his first fund when he was 25, and today he's worth $85 billion. And Ray Dalio started his first fund when he was 26, and today he's worth $17 billion. I was really inspired by the discovery of the ARK Innovation ETF, which is basically an actively managed ETF. So like an ETF or an index fund that has an aggregation of different companies for diversification, an actively managed ETF is a fund where a fund manager picks different companies, usually in a certain category, and people can invest into that fund similarly that they'd invest in the S&P 500 or the Dow Jones Index. So I thought it would be cool to create my own fund. I was thinking I'd call it like the Technology Innovation Fund, something just to denote that I'm mostly investing in like technology companies and green energy companies, and it could just be something fun that like my family or my friends could invest in if they wanted to. So what is a fund? We've all heard of like hedge funds and venture funds. So what's a fund? A fund is basically a giant pool of money, and a fund manager has access to that pool of money to do specific business activities. So the two parties involved in a fund are the people running the fund and the investors into the fund. Then, from the profits of whatever business activity the fund specializes in, the investors and the managers share the profit. So what are the different types of funds that maybe you've heard of? A hedge fund is a fund that trades public companies, so companies that are on the stock market. A private equity fund is a fund that trades private companies, so companies that are not yet on the stock market. A venture capital fund is a fund that invests in startups or early stage companies. A real estate fund is a fund that does like real estate deals, so like flipping houses but on a larger scale. And then a debt fund is a fund that does debt deals, so if an entrepreneur needs like a $10,000 loan, and then they take a little bit of debt for a while and then pay back the fund. So that's a debt fund. So why should you start a fund, or why should you be interested in starting a fund? So I learned a lot from Bridger Pennington. I'll link his YouTube channel in the description. He's really cool. His dad has a really big fund and he has his own fund, so he teaches normal people how to start funds. So according to Bridger, it takes the same amount of work to do something on a small scale as it does to do it on a large scale. So for example, with a real estate fund, if you're flipping houses for 100K and then you get like, you flip it for 100K and then you get 150K when you sell it, you made 50K. Now why don't you do that for a whole apartment complex? So you're flipping a $20 million complex and selling it for 30 million and making 10 million instead of 50K. So it's really not that much work to do something on a bigger scale. Likewise, for me, I'm already managing my own investments, right? I'm doing company research, I'm interested in looking things up and getting more information. Why don't I just create a fund and then I can do that on a larger scale? According to Bridger, there are two main things that you need to start a fund. You need like a fundamental business deal, and then you need investors. So a business deal could really be anything. You could say, okay, I make micro loans to women entrepreneurs in Argentina. That's a type of deal that your investors could invest in. Or you could say I'm a venture fund, I invest in startups. That's what I know the most about. So really it could be any deal that you want your investors to participate in with you. So here's the step-by-step of how you would go about starting a fund. First, find your amazing deal. If you had, like, let's say a car that you could buy for 50K today, and then you had a buyer who wanted to buy it at 100K on Monday, could you find $50,000 to buy that car to make 50K in a weekend? You know, so if you have a great deal, investors will be interested. Step 2 is frame the deal. Outline what the deal will be about so that investors can easily understand what they're getting into. Number 3, you have to raise money. So to do one deal, you could organize your business venture as an LLC. This is called a syndication deal. So in a syndication deal, maybe you take 15% of the deal and you give your investors 85%. So in the house flipping example, a syndication deal would allow you to flip one house, pay your investors back, and then you get paid too. So in that deal, if you were making like, 20% on 50K, you'd get 10K and your investors would get 80K. That's called a syndication deal. Now, if you get tired of setting up LLCs for every house you flip, that's when you create a fund. A fund allows you to just raise money and do business as you would normally be doing it without paying your investors back every single time you flip a house. So if you want to flip 100 houses, that's when you create a fund. And the fund basically says, if you invest in this fund, all the profits from all of our business deals will be split between the fund manager and the investors. So I want to create my own fund. What are the legal costs of doing this? How does this actually get done? A little bit of Googling sort of demoralized me. Investopedia said it takes about $100K to start your own fund, which is kind of a big investment. According to Bridger Pennington, he said it could cost between $20K and $30K to hire one lawyer to create your fund for you. He also said that if you come with the documents ready, it could be around $5K because lawyers bill for time, not for the actual amount of work that they're doing. In Bridger Pennington's course on how to start a fund, he also said he would give us the legal documents for how to start a fund, which could mean that I could get the legal cost down to about $5K if I start with pre-made documents. So I was kind of doubting myself, like, am I really smart enough to figure out all the legal elements that are involved in starting a fund? So I reached out to 2 companies that said they would do it for you. And here's what we got. First, I reached out to Alpha Architect and I told them that I wanted to create my own actively managed ETF. They responded by saying that their ideal client has around $500K in funds that they're already managing and is looking to raise $4 million. So I was like, okay, that doesn't sound like a side project. Then I reached out to Exchange Traded Concepts saying basically the same thing, and they sent me back a list of startup costs which enumerates to about $100,000. So after getting feedback back from a few companies that claim that they can start your fund for you, I DM'd Bridger on Instagram and I was like, yo Bridger, like after I pay for your $2,000 course, how much in legal fees can I realistically expect to pay before I can fully set up my fund? Like what is the total amount of money, the cheapest way possible that I would need to set up my own fund? So in my opinion, this is totally a cool startup idea, like due to the interest that we're seeing from people in investing, like recently especially, like I think more people are gonna want to set up their own funds. It's not gonna be something that is just specifically for people who want to dedicate their whole life to it. Like I think it would be cool to have your own fund. Like it just sounds cool. Like I have a fund, you know, like sounds cool. So I think like this would be a cool startup concept if like the TurboTax for taxes, but like fund creation TurboTax. Like we will make your fund for you for $2,000, $5,000. Just like get the legal thing done and just, you know, do the same thing for every person that comes through, or have them just click a bunch of boxes and basically put software onto this legal process and radically decrease the price. So if you like this video, if you want to see my progress on this side project, subscribe for more details and definitely destroy the like button. And also, if you're looking to learn to code, I have a course that teaches you how to build a portfolio website in JavaScript, HTML, and CSS, which is linked below. And additionally, follow me on Instagram. My handle is IngridZip, same as my YouTube channel. So I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.